Shabbat Shalom. I would like to go over a couple of scriptures today, which I would like to remind us, to us as a believer, and to those who are searching for the truth, probably, right there, out there. I would like to read from Romans 9:15. This is basically a quote from the Old Testament when God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was talking to Moses. I will have mercy on whom I have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I have compassion. So, as Paul saying here, it does not depend on man who wills or on man who runs, but on God who has mercy. I would like to remind us a story about Ruth. Based on how the law was given to the Jewish people, Ruth really didn't have, she was Moabite, and she was one of the Naomi's daughters-in-law. Naomi and her husband and 2 sons, because of famine, went to Moabite land, and they expected to prosper. But it never comes to prosperity. God can, even in famine, He will support you. She should have stayed there. But they went, and they were looking for better land and chance to survive. And here they got 2 Moabite daughters, Orpah and Ruth. And of course, they were God-obeying people. And they exposed their daughters-in-law to the truth of God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And by God's mercy, Ruth cling to the true God, to living God. And when the tragedy struck the family, 2 sons died, and then the husband died, and Naomi became a widow, and 2 daughters-in-law, which she, at this point, we can see that picture, giving counsel. Go, daughters, to your people. I have nothing to give it to you. That was the lowest point probably for Naomi, a test for her faith as a believer. And act of grace and mercy of God on that Ruth. Because Orpah went back, but Ruth clung to Naomi. And she said, where you go, I will go. Your God will be my God. And when you die, I will be buried there. And they went back. And God, in His mercy, He brought a grandson for Naomi through Ruth and through the Boaz, a redeemer. And we can find those 2 names in the lineage of our Messiah. And this is where I would like to round up, because you see, it's not by law, it is by grace and by mercy of God. And I would like to read something from Romans 8, where Paul was writing. For what the law could not do, weak as it was through the flesh, God did, sending His own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh as an offering for sin. He condemned sin in flesh, so that the requirement of the law might be fulfilled in us, who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. You see, the promise came to Abraham. For more than 400 years before the law was given. And the promise was given, and Abraham's faith was granted to him, and for righteousness. Credited, I should say, for righteousness. But one who doesn't work but believes in him who justifies the ungodly, his faith is credited as righteousness. You see, this is what Ruth really was able to see and understand and follow. So she became a true daughter of faith, of Abraham's faith, and she inherited that. Because you see, as Tehillim 32, through David was saying, "Blessed are those whose lawless deeds have been forgiven, and whose sins have been covered. Blessed are the man or woman whose sins the Lord will not take into account." Because you see, the law was given in order to show the sin, to show that none is righteous. None, even one, not even one is righteous. And the Lord has to keep his people under the law until the Holy One of Israel will come. Until the seed through which the promise to Abraham would come. And then it was time for the grace to appear. But now, apart from the law, the righteousness of God has been manifest, being witnessed by the law and the prophets. Even the righteousness of God through faith in Yeshua HaMashiach. For all those who believe, for there is no distinction, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, being justified as a gift by grace, through the redemption which is in Yeshua HaMashiach, whom God has displayed publicly as propitiation in his blood through faith. This was to demonstrate his righteousness, God's righteousness, because in forbearance God passed over the sins of previously committed, for demonstration that his righteousness through faith will be manifested through his people. And this way is still open. And this is what the gospel is about, which Paul said, "I'm not ashamed of the gospel because it is a power of God unto salvation to everyone." I mean everyone who believes, because it needs the righteousness of God from faith to faith is revealed, because as Hosea said, righteous shall live by faith, from faith to faith. And this way is still open. If anybody, as Joel was saying, anyone can cry on the name of the Lord, you shall be saved. And I pray that you will do that today, because God extending his, because as Paul said in Athens, the God overlooked for a long time ignorance, but now he appointed the day through which he will save people through the only one man appointed, and this is his son, who came through the virgin birth. And this way is open today. Just call upon his name. Call upon his name in truth, and he will hear you. In the name of Yeshua, I pray.